Ethan Hart had always believed in staying professional. As a junior White House correspondent, he knew his role demanded precision, objectivity, and, above all, discretion. For 2 years, he dutifully covered press briefings, attending every mundane event without complaint. Yet, there were moments when the weight of politics and protocol made him question his career choice. That Thursday morning started as one of those days. Ethan was stationed in the Rose Garden, tasked with covering a diplomatic envoy's visit. The sun was unusually bright, casting a golden hue over the meticulously trimmed hedges and flowers. Ethan adjusted his camera, focusing on the podium set up for the speech, when a figure walked into the frame, unexpected and entirely unplanned. Amelia Hayes, the president's daughter, wasn't supposed to be there. She wasn't part of the official itinerary, and Ethan had only seen her in fleeting glimpses on TV. She wore a casual white blouse and jeans, her auburn hair tumbling over her shoulders, a stark contrast to the stiff suits surrounding her. Click. The camera shutter broke the silence. Amelia turned sharply, her emerald green eyes locking onto Ethan's. For a moment, neither moved. He fumbled with the camera, an apology already forming on his lips. "I'm so sorry," he stammered, lowering the device. "I didn't mean to." She tilted her head, a hint of amusement flickering across her face. "Relax. I'm not going to bite." Ethan stood rooted, unsure how to respond. She glanced at the camera and then back at him. "Make sure you get my good side next time," she added, a playful smirk tugging at her lips before she turned and walked away. Ethan watched her go, his pulse racing. He told himself it was nothing, just a brief interaction with someone far out of his league. Yet, the image of her lingered in his mind long after she disappeared from view. An unlikely connection. Days passed, but Amelia Hayes seemed to occupy every corner of Ethan's thoughts. He chastised himself for his distraction. Falling for the president's daughter wasn't just foolish, it was career suicide. Still, fate seemed determined to throw them together. Their next encounter came at a charity gala hosted at the White House. Ethan, assigned to cover the event, kept to the periphery, capturing photographs and jotting down notes. He had almost convinced himself that Amelia wouldn't be there when he saw her. She was standing by the dessert table, dressed in an elegant emerald gown that perfectly matched her eyes. Unlike the polished socialites surrounding her, she seemed relaxed, laughing softly at something a waiter said. Ethan knew he should stay away, but before he could stop himself, he found his feet carrying him toward her. "Enjoying the party?" he asked, his voice carefully casual. Amelia turned, surprised to see him. Then her lips curved into a smile. The photographer. Got my good side yet?" Ethan chuckled, grateful for her lightheartedness. "Still working on it." They talked longer than either intended. What began as polite small talk morphed into a deeper conversation about their lives. Ethan learned that Amelia loved painting, though her father's role left little room for artistic pursuits. Amelia discovered that Ethan had grown up in Kansas, far removed from the political chaos of D.C. "You must think this world is ridiculous," she said, gesturing to the grand hall around them. Ethan shrugged. "It has its moments. But then there are people like you who make it interesting." Her cheeks flushed, but before she could respond, a Secret Service agent appeared at her side, reminding her of her next obligation. Amelia gave Ethan an apologetic look. "Duty calls," she said, her voice tinged with regret. As she walked away, Ethan felt a pang of longing. For the first time in years, his carefully maintained professional boundaries began to crack. Forbidden affection. Over the weeks that followed, Ethan and Amelia crossed paths more often. At first, it seemed coincidental, brief moments in crowded rooms, stolen glances across busy corridors. But as their connection deepened, those encounters became deliberate. A shared walk through the White House gardens. A quiet conversation on the balcony during a state dinner. Each interaction left Ethan torn between exhilaration and fear. "Why me?" he asked one evening as they sat on a secluded bench in Lafayette Square, the city bustling around them. Amelia smiled, her eyes searching his. "Because you're the first person who doesn't see me as just the president's daughter." Her words struck a chord. To Ethan, she wasn't a political figure or a tabloid headline, she was just Amelia. But the reality of their situation loomed large. A relationship between a journalist and the president's daughter was a recipe for disaster. Still, neither could bring themselves to walk away. The turning point. Their secret unraveled one fateful night when Ethan and Amelia met at a small, out-of-the-way cafe. They thought they were being discreet, but a reporter from a rival outlet recognized Amelia. By the next morning, their picture was splashed across every major news outlet. The backlash was immediate. The White House scrambled to contain the story, and Ethan found himself summoned to the Oval Office. Standing before President Hayes was the most intimidating experience of his life. "You love my daughter?" the president asked, his tone sharp. "Yes, sir," Ethan replied, his voice unwavering. The president's gaze bore into him. "And what makes you think you're worthy of her?" Ethan swallowed hard. "Probably nothing. But I'll do everything in my power to make her happy." For a moment, silence filled the room. Then the president sighed, his expression softening slightly. "Amelia deserves happiness," he said. "But if you hurt her, there will be consequences." Love in the spotlight. With their relationship exposed, Ethan and Amelia faced intense scrutiny. Every move they made was dissected by the media, every word analyzed for hidden meaning. It was exhausting, but their love proved stronger than the pressure. Amelia found solace in Ethan's unwavering support, while he drew strength from her resilience. Together, they navigated the challenges of their public and private lives, determined to carve out a space for their love. A new beginning. Years later, at a quiet vineyard far from the chaos of Washington, Ethan and Amelia exchanged vows. Surrounded by family and close friends, they promised to love and support each other through every challenge. As they danced under a canopy of stars, Ethan whispered in her ear, "It was impossible, wasn't it?" Amelia smiled, her green eyes sparkling. "Most things worth having are." In that moment, they knew they had found something rare, a love that defied all odds.